Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Project Emerald Collective podcast. I'm joined by the beautiful and very knowledgeable Milca Perez from Malva, and she is going to talk to us this morning about her take on intentional living. For those that don't know me, my name's Eve McIntyre and I'm the founder of the Project Emerald Collective. So more than a marketplace, we're a movement towards intentional living and for women to take their power back. So let's jump into the session this morning. Good morning, Milca.
Good morning, Evie, and all the audience that is behind the screen today. Thank you for the introduction. But today I would like to start with a words or a short poem that I wrote a few years ago, and I think is perfect for this instant. So there you go. I'm gonna give it a go. I am a woman traveling from the divine to earth. I am a soul carrying the divine within. I am the divine feminine rising through my body, through my voice, through my wounds, through my love. I am no longer becoming. I am.
I love that. It's so beautiful. And how fitting for this movement that we're creating.
Yes, so that I thought I would share with you guys because it's perfect.
It is absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. And we'll have that poem as a resource for our audience as well. So Milca, I'll just get you to introduce yourself and touch on the many hats that you wear. And literally, you're wearing a hat today for those that are just listening. But Milca has a beautiful felt hat on with feathers. Australian made, and it's gorgeous.
And this is approximately 7 years old. So it used to be a beautiful green earthy color. And now obviously because I wear it a lot, it's losing the natural color, which is perfect because give it a character. So I do love hats, by the way. And this is my favorite one. But regarding to who I am in this moment on this planet, I have a few. So the first one is regarding to sustainable living, and I do workshops and talked, and I love to empower communities from a holistic point of view, to live more sustainable in harmony with their communities and their families, instead from a academic data overwhelming perspective. So I do that through my brand Malva, which is the name of a plant or flower. And I have been doing that for the last maybe 5 years in Tasmania, but I have a long background from mainland and overseas. And my other hat that I love also is my motherhood. I have 2 beautiful boys, 12 and 11, so pretty much like twins. And I do have a husband, and I'm a daughter. I'm only child, so I don't have siblings. And my parents are overseas, so I'm a long distance daughter. But I'm also ecopreneur. So ecopreneur, for the people who's not familiar with the concept, is 2 words from ecology and entrepreneur. So it's a mix, and it's pretty much making businesses with the environment as a pillar. So it's the opposite of what corporations are doing. That's a very simple way to explain. And I'm the house healer. So I prepare our own medicines. I make tinctures. Latterly, I have done some soaps and lip balm because now winter, one of my sons get very dry lips. We try to grow our vegetables, but it's very difficult, but we success with a few ones. And primarily herbs for me are the main focus, and flowers in my garden. So I use all that knowledge that's coming from my background back in Chile, and I use it to create product that I sell in my other brand, which is called Luna Earth Magic. And I do my service to the community through that brand at Salamanca Market, where I often get a lot of customers that come in for just to have a word and to understand how they can change their energy field. And I use plant to help with that. And yeah, that's pretty much my main roles at the moment.
I love that. So interesting. And I'm reflecting, what are the 3 pivotal moments in your life that have shaped the woman that you are today?
That is quite a difficult question to brief in 3 moments, but I'm guessing the one I remember as a child, it was around the age of 7 when I realized that I was a human. And I have that, like that momentum, like looking around and looking adults. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is why the humans are so silly. That was my question. And I felt like disappointed. It's like, oh, this is what I'm going to have to deal with, in the future. As a child, it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But to understand my reflection as a child, I think it's that moment when you are losing your innocence, because before that, it was a beautiful place to live with beautiful humans. And then you start understanding and realizing that bad things happen around. And that's when this reflection came to me. But also the background that we need to understand. At that moment, Chile was going through a very difficult political time. So we were transitioning from dictation to democracy, and that it was a lot of violence around. So that's when my pivotal moment of, gosh, the war had a lot of violence and bad people. And probably at the same year, I have also my first spiritual connection. So I'm guessing that came as an answer like, oh, don't worry, no, everything is too bad, And that obviously shaped my spiritual path and my way of living with communities and curiosity to understand other cultures and languages. And then I would say the second one was 25 years later when I made the decision to cross the airport doors and leave behind my family, my friends, my successful career to the nothing, which was getting to an aeroplane and came to Australia as an international student and arrived in Brisbane without knowing absolutely anyone. So that is definitely yes, super brave, but very hard emotionally, as the only child. It was really pivotal moment of testing my boundaries and my resilience. And the last one, I would say definitely motherhood, to become a mother, because that it was not on my list of goals in life. My goals were to be a traveler, a successful entrepreneur, and the rest, like whatever. But when I became a mother, it was something that I didn't realize, that actually I was having some like enlightenment without even knowing, because I was writing letters to my son when I was in my 20s without wanting to be a mother. So that's very weird. And then when I got pregnant and I knew that the gender of the baby was a boy, everything clicked. So it was a period of like 15 years in between when I wrote a letter to a illusionary person in the future, and then came to become real that it was this little boy. And
what the letter said? Do you remember what the letter said?
I do have a few letters back at home. So it would be very interesting to find them and read them. Yes. But what I have done for both of them, I wrote a letter to them when they turned 1 year old. And they can read it when they turn 21st. So the challenge for them is to learn Spanish, because I wrote them in Spanish to encourage them to make the effort to learn my language.
Amazing. What does living intentionally mean to you?
I will say it in simple words. Sustainability can frame everything from the point of view of values and pillars. Like, for instance, using permaculture, you have values in there and pillars to follow. The spirituality part is completely integrated with sustainability, because without values and without understanding that we're part of nature and that we are a microcosmos of this cosmos and many other cosmos, the living intentionally makes sense and join together. So principles, I would say, is the main ground to live intentionally. So what are your values? What are my values? And perhaps we could integrate them and weave together an environment that makes sense for us. And that's the way I try to transmit my message through both brand and integrate them as one person, which is my being. My face.
Yeah. absolutely. And I love that you're bringing nature and feminine wisdom together.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, can you chat to us about what you think when you think about the divine feminine? What does that mean to you?
It's quite an intense topic and a lot of influences. But if we're still thinking as we are part of nature and nature is part of us, I will use the story of this matriarchal elephant. So her name is Emma. Emma is the goddess of the tribe, and that is because her wise knowledge of guiding the whole tribe through the desert. And she remembers where the water is, where the shade is. She remembers where the dangerous places are. And if it's some danger, everybody will come together and defend the tribe. So she make this tribe cross all these different stages to become a successful tribe and live happy together. So this wisdom of the matriarchal leadership is what the divine for me is now. It means the divine feminine for me is this return to understanding how matriarchal societies have success still and how we are being violent and being put in a very dark place by toxic patriarchism or machismo, which is in Spanish. So the patriarchal societies in some through long history and many different stages has deleted or have tried to put the divine feminine aside of the way we live. And that's why we are going through this crisis, environmental crisis, a spiritual crisis, because we lost that connection, that divine feminine connection that incorporate all these different values, way of living, wisdom, respect, medicines. Yeah, historically, the suppression and the dominance of the systems, have through history, before Christianity, Gaia, nature was the goddess. And all the cultures, they are found. I'm not very good with history because I'm the virgin, so all the years and part of the history cross my timeline is not linear. So, but I do know they have found sculptures of goddesses over 60,000 years old. So that means our previous humanity communities used to have that connection with the divine feminine. And along history through like the Inquisition in Spanish, where medicine and healers were persecuted, killed, burned like steaks. And that delete all that knowledge of, doulas, shaman, all the people who have the connection between nature and human beings is being just put it aside. And that caused this unbalance. So the divine feminine for me now is that return, is that invitation to return to our soul sovereignty and reclaim our power as wise women.
Yeah, absolutely. So what can modern women learn from female leadership in nature, do you think?
Everything. Like if we think about fashion, because I had the opportunity to work in that industry for many years back in Chile, all designers know that inspiration to design a new collection or a new fabric pattern come from nature. So what designers do, you go outside and observe, work, walk in the forest, get leaves, put it together, try to imitate the colors, try to imitate the textures. So in modern, there's always been like that. And any designer cannot deny that they find inspiration from nature. And when you find this inspiration and link it with your power as a wise woman and as a collective, you start weaving this a new way of thinking, this shifting of designing something for a good instead of just to create a garment.
Yeah.
Instead, create a garment with meaning, with transcendent, with culture, with connection. And that is the slow fashion. And that's what we're trying to shift, because the consequences of fast fashion are so horrendous and it's because they're being managed by patriarchism mentality of make, and I don't care about tomorrow because I'm not going to live 100 years to see it. Instead, we wise women have that understanding of the future and our generations and the 7th generation after, as our First Nation people understand very well.
Yeah, beautiful. What can nature teach us about community, wisdom, and collective care?
I think nature have told us quite a lot. Like yesterday, it happened 3 simultaneous earthquakes in America. Two with a difference of 2 minutes each, devastating 7.2 earthquakes. Venezuela, Japan, US. So Europe is having the second hottest wave at the moment. I think they said I can't remember how far apart in many years, but they are desperate with this hot weather. So I think nature is definitely talking to us and saying that we need to act. We need to act soon than we thought. And if we think about the planetary boundaries, we have already crossed 6 of them. So it is urgent to become empowered, and whatever role that you are doing, you have, as a woman, we have the power to change things. And I have done it, even though I'm a migrant. English is my second language. I'm women. I'm not from a rich family. So you can put all the labels that you want. And at the end, the fact and the result is that I have helped so many people and the community in a very gentle, nurturing, lovely way, that all the time I get comments and I get testimonies and I get messages saying, I didn't know, thank you, you showed me this, now I'm doing that. So any role that you are at this moment, you have the power to get your divine feminine back and use it to help our planet, which is also a female energy.
I love that. So interesting. So looking back at your grandmothers, your mother, your father, how did they shape your understanding of strength, freedom, and leadership?
Well, I'm coming from a matriarchal family. My mom, my grandmother, she was a widow living in a farm. She decided to live off the grid on her own, and her power was the garden, the herbs, medicines, making medicine from herbs. And I mean, thinking about that, like I'm living in a rural area after being living so many years in big cities, like the whole Tasmania in one city, pretty much. And now I'm living in a completely opposite, a little town. I cannot imagine myself living on my own in this place off grid. And my grandmother did as a choice. So it's definitely a leader in resilience.
Yeah.
And then from my mom's side, very similar story. She also was widow. So I didn't have grandfathers in my childhood. I just have grandmothers and aunties pretty much. And she was also living in the country, but more not that rural. So she had a farm and she was what we call like sort of the captain of the farm, you know? And she led the workers and she did the work with them. She also was a butcher. So I used to go with her in the morning, take the animals to the butcher and then go have a coffee, wait for that process finish. And then, pick up the animal, take it back to the shop and do all the process of putting the fridges and stuff like that. So absolutely a leader in the community. She won awards. She donated a piece of land on her farm to put a church. So we couldn't have excuse to don't go to church on Sundays because the church was literally 2-minute walk.
Yeah, right.
So every Sunday morning, every Sunday afternoon, church. And she offered the surplus, to the community to share with them. So that leadership in a community environment definitely inherited from her.
Mm.
And then my mother is another entrepreneur, but also a healer. She is a former reflexology and chiropractic. So I saw her healing so many people. And so many times I had said to her, I don't want to be like you. I don't want to be a healer. Forget about it. And now I'm taking that. And then I saw her doing that, but also she was a leader in a very masculine and patriarchal industry, which is the transport industry. She owned taxis. She was the only female in that environment. That's how hard it was. Like, she was bullied and sexual harassment. She went through everything, but she was the only woman in that industry. So, and my dad, of course, 100% feminist. He always told me since a little girl, you don't let any man tell you what to do. It's your decision. You don't, that's pretty much, he raised me as a free soul, while women, men, divine feminine, like very connected since a childhood. So definitely all those characters in my life, I have learned and take learnings from all of them to become who I am today. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's no wonder that you're a healer as well in the work that you do, and that you're incorporating nature and its lessons into your daily life with your family. So do you think we've become disconnected from these lessons in modern life?
Yes, totally. And I was disconnected too. I went through my mundane, or other people call it shadow work, or you call it whatever you want. But this part of nature becomes disconnected. Also, the important thing is to understand and realize and come back. And that's what we are doing now. This new awakening, or this new shift in thinking, how we are related each other as a community, is coming back to nature and understanding that medicines first become from nature. Yes. And then medicines were capitalized by men, that they want to just get profit. But then in between, life got busier and we need more quick fixes that don't fix the root of the illness, and just fix the symptoms.
Yeah.
Like, I love science. Don't get me wrong. I think science have done amazing discovery. And when science link with the knowledge and the wisdom that we had previously, it's amazing. Like, there are hospitals that they use sound healing. They use herbal healings in their therapies. So it's not like it's impossible. It's just the way we live. And we've, again, back to the main topic, or the first topic about values. We put all those values together. We are creating this life that we all wanted, but we are completely disconnected and don't know how to do it. So yes, definitely we are disconnected. We all have been disconnected. The spiritual journey, you have to have this connection to understand the connection later afterward. As I said, realize, oh shit, this is the wrong pathway. I make these mistakes. I learn from it, but now I'm going to walk in the right pathway. And that is the pathway of the nurturing, the gratitude, the values, the sharing, and the not keep doing the same bloody mistake over and over again. Like mistakes like pollution, for instance. So yes, that's my answer.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So, touching on the rise of feminine leadership, which, the world needs more of right now, we're seeing more and more women stepping into leadership around the world, which is awesome. But what do you think the world is asking of women right now?
Well, one of the female leadership that I really, really admire is, at the moment, is the Mexican president, Claudia sorry, I can't pronounce her surname, but if you search for the Mexican president, first is the first female in a very, very patriarchal culture. She is the nurturing wisdom Emma, that elephant that we talked before, that stereotype. She's there, but with very strong boundaries, but with love.
Mhm.
That balance that other president just above Mexico is not. It's the opposite. You can see there that arrogance, that ego, that central piece of everything, that I know everything, instead of let's do it together. What do you know? What I do know? How can we work and build this unfair, this unbalance that's been happening for so long? How can we fix it? And then you have both archetypes of the toxic patriarchism and the divine female wisdom.
Mhm.
And on top of that, related to fashion, she is my God, her closet, the dresses she wear are stunning. And they are non-brands that you know or I know, because they are made, handmade, slow fashion by the Mexican independent designers. The tribes that weave, that tribes that use natural dyes. So she represents her culture with outfit on top of that. So I'm debating with all these politicians that they had no idea of everything what we've been talking in this 40 minutes. And they point, the way of thinking is just profit, profit, profit. Zero connection with their environment. Zero connection with even the clothes they're wearing. I'm sure if you ask them why you're wearing, they have no idea.
Yeah.
So that is a very good example of leadership and divine feminine together. Like using your power to actually make changes, positive changes.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have the agency to be able to do that as well.
Mhm.
So how is feminine leadership different to traditional leadership models, in your opinion?
Traditional and modern. Well, it's again back to simple patriotism leadership, which is it doesn't mean just men have a patriarchal style, because women can be very patriarchal too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not about gender. It's about the way you think and behave. So definitely, I think Tasmanian politicians are very patriarchal thinking. Again, if thinking in that same, using the Mexican president as a example, is the same with many other leaderships and those roles. But there are positive changes. I'm not sure in Australia, but in Chile, they raise at the parliament 50% female and 50% males as a gender equality sustainable development goal, or using one of the sustainable development goal, gender equality in the parliament. And I think that is a reflection of a new way of leadership. So in roles like management, say CEO, ministers, if we have that balance, perhaps we can fix a lot of the mistakes we have already done. But if we don't have that balance and the female in power is still behaving in a patriarchal mental state and spiritual state, so completely disconnected between their wisdom, we're going to still having the same issues over and over again.
Yeah, that's true. So can feminine leadership exist in men too?
Totally. Yeah. I'm raising my two boys with that mentality already.
Mhm.
And it's nothing to do with the trend on gender equality or gender identifications. It's nothing to do with being a feminist or not. It's just following the wisdom of connection, of understanding how important is love, nurturing, gratitude, respect. And I can see how they behave different than other children and parents and teachers back to me saying, "Oh, your kids' way of behave is amazing," because they have been raised by not just me, but my husband. So he's he's very connected with his female energy too. So totally agree. And I can give my testimony that it is possible to raise boys with their female energy and balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that too. So how do we honor both feminine and masculine energies rather than seeing them in opposition?
I think honoring is a very beautiful word. In my case, I try to have that energy at home with altars.
Okay.
So in our house, you can find a lot of altars. In my studio, you can find altars. The boys have their own altars and rituals that they do before to go bed. And I think that is a very simple way of keeping that visually and physically in matter, that invisible energy of love, gratitude, nurturing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So talk to us about the altars.
So I have here next, well, I can't turn it. I don't know if I can turn it.
You can describe it for us.
I have that one in here. So altars are pretty much little spaces. You know, I'm not talking a church altar, but I'm talking of small spaces where you can place your items that are meaningful for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that remind you that grounding, like a candle, you know, remind you of the fire, the warmth. You can place your favorite crystals if you want, if you have. You can light an incense if you like the smoke, like I do. And the aromas, you can have a picture. You know, you can have a icon that when you travel, you can have stone that you found when you're in your morning walking that you saw it means something to you. So anything can be placed on an altar that have a meaning for you. And you can use the altar to remind you how divine we are and in different ways. So independently of religions, or independently of dogmas, you can have an altar of anything, anywhere. Indoor, outdoor, in your garden, for instance. And that constantly remind you how we are part of this environment.
Yeah, I guess another way to describe an altar would be an intentional and grounding space.
Yes. If you have the space. So some people have, like for instance, when I was traveling, when we travel overseas, we travel for a year, 8 months overseas and 4 months in Tasmania. I had a portable altar. So a little box with a few of my favorite items, and wherever I went and I had this, you know, moment for myself, I placed my items and I did my rituals. So you can do also that, like portable, and to have it with you when you travel, you know. Could be something very small and very simple, but yes, intentionally place an object that actually connect to your soul, to the meaning of living in this moment.
Yeah, beautiful. So at the Project Emerald Collective, we talk about taking your power back through conscious choices, and that's what we're all about. What role does self-trust and intuition play in leadership?
Wow. So Divine Feminine is all about intuition. So that's what we have been told that we don't have. And if we have it, it's silly, it's hormonal, it's ridiculous, it's crazy. All those adjectives that we have been listening for 2,000 years approximately. Yeah, no, you're too crazy, you're too brave, or oh no, just shut up, you know, just be pretty, sit in the corner and don't get old. Because if you get old, you're not important anymore. You know, that's what all these stereotypes on TV is telling us. So it's damaging our instinct. So then we become this sort of bodies with brain, but with not connection to our soul. And our soul is instinct, that voice that is telling you, no, take that pathway, better go choose that one instead. You know, the one is telling you maybe don't choose that one. And you do anyway. And then you go back home and say, oh, I shouldn't listen to me, you know, because you realize that you made the wrong choice because you wasn't putting attention to your divine power. to your wisdom, to your instinct. So so definitely this is a reminder that is making these choices, especially in a country like Australia, which is extremely consumerist. And at the moment is from the second most consumerist of fast fashion. Now we are the first one. So it's like, yeah, we win. No, that's not a win. That is we won. Sorry. That's not a win. It's a shame because the choices that we are making are coming from a linear system of thinking and making and wasting without buying, with zero conscious.
Yeah.
What make us humans is that our conscious, our instinct, our free will to decide. And we are designing this. We are taking the wrong choices and actually I read something yesterday about a report about microplastic. And one of the things that I'm working at the moment is to create these educational tools to empower communities and groups of youth and focus on youth for them to understand the current model of fast fashion. Okay. And one of the topics in there is the microplastic. And 2 weeks ago, I tested this tool and they were little
girls,
probably in the age between 7 and 8, 9 years old. And we came across this topic of clothing and microplastic. And the question was, is your clothes made of plastic? And they said, oh, no way. That's impossible. And I said, oh, can I have a look the label of your top? 100% polyester. So obviously they didn't know. So I explained to her to them what polyester is. And one of the girls actually knew. She was a little bit older, was like 12. And she said, oh yeah, I have seen how they do from the plastic bottle. I said, yeah, that's exactly right. So your clothes is made from plastic. That plastic, it have little things that we can't see, like energy. You can't see the energy that is making this phone work, isn't it? Same with microplastic. We can't see it, but it's there. You know it's there because it's doing something. So now 50% of microplastic is on our bodies. Yeah. So what the scientific research have found in our breasts, milk, men testicles, brain. So the consequences of this toxic patriarchism and way of thinking is not just damaging the environment. Is damage ourselves and our kids and their kids because they didn't have problems. They already have many problems with fertility. So going back to the first question that you did to me and my reflection about when that 7 years old child thinking, shit, look the planet that I am and look how we're going to have to deal with these stupid humans, At some point, I think we do have an option and we do have hope. And this is the time to do it. And the way to do it is this cultural shift and become feminine, divine, and power, wisdom. Those concepts happen constantly in our life and constantly talking about it and empowering our other women's and other men's so we can fix this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a firm believer that the time is now to make these changes. So what are some ways that we can improve our intuition or embody the divine feminine within ourselves?
I can share a few rituals that I have been using for a while. The first one is journalism. Like I have so many journals, and when I go back, it really helped to understand the process you've been through. So rituals like writing the first things you remember in the morning, or to write your own positive affirmations, phrases, or copy someone that inspired you and remember. So many little rituals that we can do to reconnect to ourselves. But for me, writing, it was a very important one. And that's what I wrote, that poem that I started with. It was in my transition from 39 to 40. So that decade, that's like, oh my gosh, I never thought I'm going to be 40, And it's happening. So when I went to that transition, I was so depressed. So I used journalism channel that energy in a positive way, as I understanding that we are nature and we are going to transitions all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then for me, flowers have a super important role in my life. Herbs, so teas, or perhaps there are no from farms. Perhaps you can grow them like a peppermint plant.
Mm-hmm.
That's super easy to grow, and then the altars, as I mentioned before, and put all this. It depends what you want and what you like in your life. But definitely those elements can empower us and remind us and give us that little extra push, to don't give up easy, even though it's a lot of stress and crisis around us. So at some point we can just get sort of protected and grounded, from walking barefoot to pray and meditate. But that's more like, not everybody feel confident with that. But I'm guessing most of the people will be confident to have a bunch of flowers, and the flowers remind you how beautiful you are and how amazing nature is, that it can create those colors, those textures. And that's when you start reconnecting. I understand that if any of this makes sense for the people listening this, it's totally understandable. It's the process is not going to make sense for everyone. I don't know if it happened to you or no, but when I was pregnant, I never saw pregnant women's in my life until I was pregnant. Like suddenly it was like, oh my gosh, so many pregnant women. What's going on? So I never noticed it. So this is the saying, your divine feminine and this power and this awakening, if it doesn't make sense to you now, and it's gonna happen in a moment that you will back and say, oh, I heard about this before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna start making sense. But why I'm sure about this? Because as you said, it is the moment. And it's gonna make sense to you anyways. If it's not today, it's gonna be in a few years, perhaps.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Correct.
It begins with awareness. So wherever you are now, you're exactly meant to be in that moment. So trust that. And small steps. So do you think women, just touching on embodying the divine feminine and just diving into that a little bit more, do you think that sometimes we need to grieve who we thought we were before becoming who we truly are?
Yeah, that's part of the growing. That's part of the process. Totally. Especially in body. Like for me, it's been super difficult to deal, because I never had body issues. Like I was super lucky to be size 8, lucky because that was the stereotype that a young woman would like to wear, and curves, Latin American, and sexy. And I didn't have that concern to don't be sexy. Like that was natural. And then after motherhood, body changed completely. So you start, like saying goodbye to that young, beautiful body and welcoming this different body. And it's not easy transition. That's when those elements of journalism or grounding and having your altar and your favorite prayers or books, whatever, help you to go through that process and not get lost, and this fantasy of you're never going to get old. You're always going to be size 8 all your life. All this stress put in on us, which is, I think, is part of the patriarchism mental play on us, putting us under that stress, because in these days, they can't burn us alive anymore, like they did. Yeah. But the way they burn us is they burn us out mentally and spiritually, putting all this marketing campaigns, this archetype on movies, on TV or music everywhere. And that's what our little girls are listening and seeing. So it's not just us as an adult. It's also the victims of this unempowered little young girls.
Yeah, that's so true. And what we consume matters. So, and where we spend our time, energy, and money matters. So, I guess that's what the movement is with the Project Emerald Collective, is to take that agency back and think more consciously about the power that you do have in changing your life and the next generation's lives as well.
I mean, if we think, to close what you're just saying, because it's very, very powerful. If you think in one word, thinking consumerism and search and learn what that means. And we shouldn't tell the meaning, but I'm encouraged to everyone who's listened to this to do your own research and find what part of that is making you making the wrong choices. That's it. Yeah. And start from there.
Yeah. That could be the place that, the females listening, or anyone listening to this podcast could start there. Is just to take that one step this week. So, Milca, what does taking your power back mean to you personally?
To do whatever I want. Well, I've always been kind of like that. But of course, because now I'm not on my own anymore, it is quite difficult to make those decisions, to say, I want to do this, but actually, I can't, because the children's, because the husband, because the grandparents, because this and this and this and that. So taking my power back, it's been challenging, especially in this location, I would say, geopolitical location, even though it's a beautiful place, apparently. It does have the challenges. However, this has teach me another lesson, which is pause. Pause, think, wait, have your boundaries clear, and just pause. That calm your mind so I can think properly. And that's have translate to me to working in this project of designing this education tool at the moment. But also keep myself grounded through my other brand, to Lunar Earth Magic, because that's take me out to the garden. Yeah. And if I didn't have that entrepreneur adventure, I probably would be sitting with my laptop all day, as I used to do back in the days, working in the industries and living in concrete cities where that connection, with nature was broken. So now I feel completely more empowered because I own my ideas and I work on my ideas. Those ideas I know are powerful, and I know they're meaningful, and I know they're going to make a positive change. They have already done it. I just need to pursue it and continue that pathway, which is I'm happy with this pathway, and that everything's going to flow, give me what I need to continue on that path.
Yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give your younger self, Milca?
Younger self. That humans are not that horrible that I thought. That they are beautiful souls, and we are joined and founded each other like as we did. And they are definitely don't be afraid. Yes. That would be my advice.
I love that. So if women listening today remembered only one thing from our conversation, what would you hope it would be?
Okay. I think it would be what I wrote last night. I wrote it in here. Divine Feminine is an invitation to return to our soul sovereignty. It's a small phrase, but I believe it's very powerful and is aligned with what we've been talking for an hour. And what I would like you to remember, that in this conversation, it is an invitation to return to our soul sovereignty, and we can do it.
I love that. So what does soul sovereignty mean for people just starting out on their journey?
Is to understand first that you are not just a brain and a body, that it's an energy inside of us that is connected to a more powerful energy that we may not see because we are used to touch this, see this, think, but inside of us is this soul that is connected to our instinct, that is methodology. It's been methodology I don't know I don't know if that makes sense, but they have been, say, from the marketing point of view, they've been planned to delete it from us and make us just a thinking body, but not a feeling sentence person. And where were we going through now to this evolution to artificial intelligence? That is exactly what it is. Intelligence, no soul. That's what's the difference between the objects and the human. So we've been gifted with this element, and that element is part of all of us, and we have forgotten, and we have to recover it. And sovereignty is mean we own it. It's ours.
Yes, that's so true. So I've loved our conversation today, Milca. Thank you so much for joining me and our audience. And there's so much wisdom that you've shared. Where can people find and connect with you?
In person, I have a casual stall at Salamanca Market in Hobart, Tasmania. So you can follow my Luna Earth Magic and see me there. In person, you can invite me to your community and create, or if you're working in any sustainable living project, you can invite me there and we can connect through malva.com.au. Online, my Instagram, my LinkedIn.
Yeah, great. I'll put those in the show notes and reach out to Milca if you'd like to work with her or learn more. And thank you so much. And there will be extra resources that we will include for our audience as well. So thank you, Milca.
Thank you, Evie. Have a lovely sunny day today.
Yes.